So there's a entrepreneurial synergy.
A lot of collaboration.
That is very cool, man.
And you know what?
That is awesome.
Garmamie, that's like when I go into the cauldron and it's busy, right? Like people are mixing here and people are like washing here and people are like scrubbing, doing all these different things that are happening in the kitchen. And it's like, oh, how's it going? It's like, oh, guess what? Yeah, like that yesterday I was in the kitchen and I met with this guy who was working in the kitchen too, and we're going to start something together. We're like, oh, really? That's awesome, right? So this whole spirit of collaboration and the shared, like using the space as a shared space has been really incredible. Yeah.
It's really, first of all, this is a very cool, as you guys started, it's a very cool business that you guys have launched. And it's very interesting because people always think of startups in the IT sense, like, oh, this web startup, this web app, this firm, augmented reality, this, that, and blockchain technology. But this is a startup. You essentially created an atmosphere, a incubator of sorts, where different people can come with their culinary dreams, and you guys facilitate collaboration. And it's really cool because ultimately, food is not going to be downloadable, right? You know what I mean? Like,
for sure.
The food industry is always going to be there.
Yeah, we all need to eat, right?
Big time. So it's
energy input. Yeah.
It's interesting. You got as an engineer that engineer by trade, by training, and so on. That you would focus on that and create this startup of collaboration, business wise. What sort of impact has well, you've kind of answered it, but speak on within the Ottawa business community. How are food businesses kind of feared? Are they, because we always hear like, oh, this restaurant open, this restaurant closed.
Yeah.
Is the shared kitchen business model the way forward for a lot of up and coming startups?
Maybe.
Because there's so many.
Yeah, maybe. You're right about the incubation part of it, right? We have clients that come in. We have this one client is called Juicehead, and they had a dream of trying to create like really great organic juices, right? Finding good product. And so they use our kitchen for like testing, right? So it's like a test kitchen. So
research and development.
Exactly, research and development, right? So this whole idea what you're talking about technology is like, people, there are labs essentially that are made to like create food, right? And so this is kind of where that industrial food came from. But these people are so keen on like, yeah, I'm going to figure this out. So he's in there and he's like creating recipes, right? These types of recipes. And so trying to find out what they work. So there is space for for the restaurant industry, and like what you're saying is like, there's the idea that some restaurants happen and close, and there's always this it's kind of like this industry thing is like, this great chef, and the chef's name is like so big that it just attracts people, and the food can be great or it could just be mediocre and stuff. But I've heard a lot that kind of Ottawa is saturated with this like fine dining type of establishments, and so they're and they do somewhat well, some of them, and some of them don't, and they there's always a kind of recirculation. But in respect to like the incubator and if it's a shared kitchen model, I suppose there could be more. I don't know if it's a way forward. I think it has its place, specifically if you've got small food businesses who are working a lot with like the local farmers and at the farmers markets. I find a lot of our clients do like to have that kind of market value, or market venue, right? Okay. And so we have one, Sigrid Nordic Baking, who is now, she does a lot of these what is it, like pinwheels, not the pinwheels, the hot crust buns and croissant, no, the croissants. Sorry, the spirals. Oh my God, cinnamon buns.
That's cinnamon.
Sorry about that. Yeah.
It's all good.
So she does a lot of these cinnamon buns, and one of the things is that she, I got a license to be in one of the markets. So she's like really excited to get her business going and starting with baby steps, right? And that's what I think this incubator is all about, right? Is like to get people in there, try what their models are about, right? To see how it works. And so it's some really interesting things that are happening. And I think it's important for it to be kind of that type of space.
Sure.
To experiment, right? And like you said, it's like this R&D type of thing. And it's exactly what I envision it to be, right? There is a certain point where I think some of these businesses will get too big and be like, well, you know what? I need more space. I need those things. Like, but maybe they're at that stage where then they can either go into another kitchen, right? Or, we've even heard of some of them getting together, right? And finding their own place and then just kind of sharing a kitchen on their own, right? So like 2 or 3 businesses working together to share one space, right? Instead of like just having a whole bunch of people come through. So I feel that that's kind of the role, what the Cauldron is all about, right? Like we like to kind of bubble people out of our space, and eventually they kind of graduate and say, yeah, like now they're big enough that they can own their own kitchen and then they have their processes down so that they're making money, because it is tough. Margins on food is quite tough. Like people, unfortunately, don't spend as much money on food, right? If they can try to find something cheaper, they will, right? And irrelevant of the quality sometimes. I hope that changes, that mentality changes, realizing that high quality food is a high quality of life, way of life, sort of thing. So I think that like the timing is right for like this R&D sort of thing, and to get people, and you're right, it is cool. People get really excited about it, and when I talk to it about it, it's like, oh wow, that's really great. How's that going? And it gets really exciting that to hear people realize like, oh yeah, that makes sense. I want to start a business, right?
Yeah.
So that's and so at that point, that's when I realized, okay, let's experiment with this idea of like getting people who have no business experience, right? And that leads me to what we started, the Cauldron Ambassadeurin program. And Ambassadeurin is it's like an apprentice sort of thing. It's another word for apprentice.
I had to look it up on Google.
Yeah. That's
online.
Right. Yeah, it was kind of opening up the thesaurus and being like, let me find the coolest word here, right?
It is cool.
It is, right? It's because it's ABCD, right? Ambassadeurin. That's what it is. And so very elementary, you can almost say, right? So when you're bringing people in at that elementary stage, and the response was fantastic. So we had about 4 weeks that the application was up, and what the program was mostly about is just to get people in, get them kind of started on a business plan, get them some mentorship and some entrepreneurial classes.
Wow.
So I was lucky to receive a grant from the Greenbelt Fund. And so that fund came through, and that was quite the process for me to write up all the details from it. And to get that fund. So it's a little bit of money, but it was interesting because the fund itself wasn't really for kitchen incubators. It was more for like big like local food type of movements, and not movements, but more kind of like programs to like say educate a whole bunch of kids sort of thing. And if you have that type of on what does it mean to be local food? Right, or to what are the other things too? Like if you wanted to do a market study to figure out if this new product will go well with the market, sort of thing. So when they saw my application, the Greenbelt Fund, when they saw my application, they're kind of like, oh, well, this is interesting, and he's not asking for very much. Let's give it a shot, right? And so they got really excited. So excited that they are interested in starting another type of fund that's dedicated to like kitchen incubators, right? To start for food business, which I was like, wow, okay, this is cool, right? So breaking some ice there and realizing it. So so this little pilot project really concerns a lot with the idea of just getting people through the door, to give them a little bit of experience with it being in a commercial kitchen, right? So they get time in the commercial kitchen, they get time with some mentors, and then they get some time in a classroom setting to learn some entrepreneurial classes. So our business partners are with Invest Ottawa, which is again this whole thing of this technology incubator thing, which is pretty amazing. And so they were pretty excited for me to come up with with this idea. They're like, okay, let's
Yeah,
try
because
it, right?
you guys are unique. You
Yeah.
know what I mean. You're
Yeah.
focused on food. When you talk about business startups these days, it's you know maybe 70% all technology based, 20%
Yeah, there's big
bio
money in there. That's why.
You know, there is,
Yeah,
but people can't forget the huge influence that is food. You know, it's
It
our
is.
day to day. We eat 3 times a day, sometimes more. And are there more I guess opportunities for this collaboration with because you mentioned now with this grant coming in and teaching people the entrepreneurial side of running a business and
Yep.
the value of investing in local produce and
Yeah,
whatnot. Are there opportunities for say maybe high schools or college students to come in for is
Yeah,
I'm just
definitely. Yeah, no. I think there's opportunity for that. I think as a disclaimer, I don't think the Cauldron is interested in like actually running those types of programs.
Right.
We would love to host those programs. That's kind of the role that Dave and I have seen is like we don't have the time to like start running,
Sure,
right?
sure,
So, but we are completely open to being like, you want to run that type of program here? We can host you. Like this is the great place for it. So we actually have a client that does that.
Okay.
It's called Christian Horizons, and they're a school where they teach some physical but mentally challenged kids. And so the kids range from I think probably about 16 to probably 20 years old, and they learn kitchen skills.
That's awesome.
So they're in there 2 days a week, right? In a classroom setting, they've got a professional chef teaching them, and so they're in and they're learning how to like, set pasta together. They do a lot of different things like knife skills, which is a big thing, right? So it's pretty amazing. So we're very open to that, right? And our space is actually very conducive to that teaching element. We have a small lounge area, which I have to acknowledge. Dave Neal is my business partner is a very big proponent of food education. Like he thinks that's, I really respect. He values that a lot. It's a principle of his, and so he wanted to make sure that was something that was real a part of the Cauldron Kitchen, and so we've hosted different classes before, at the beginning and stuff. But yeah, hosting programs like that is completely acceptable, and we're open to that. So I feel that that in time will come as our name gets a little bit bigger and realizing like, oh, there's an opportunity. I did speak to a high school teacher who was kind of upset that a lot of different high school facilities have gutted their home economics departments, right? And so they've gutted those and replaced them with computers. I remember in my school, like I was just coming out of those home ec and realizing, oh, they're getting rid of all these kitchens and putting in computers.
Sure.
Oh, well, too bad for you, the younger kids, right? Like,
Right.
So
they just use a microwave. They don't know how to cook. Now.
Right. And so there's a lot of real interesting things that can happen with like the students and for food education, which I think is a big thing. Yeah.
So, what are some of the other programs and services that are available at the Cauldron?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. We had one of the things when we started, when the kitchen wasn't as full as it is now, with a lot of different food businesses using it, which is essentially what we want. So one of the revenue streams that we did work on was bringing food education, right? And so teaching some kitchen skills or some culinary skills. Like I mentioned, my business partner is has high principles on like teaching and showing how easy it is to be in a kitchen. So one of the things that we did do is we have a knife skills class where about 5 or 6 people would come in, and we hosted one every month, and people just learned how to cut vegetables, right? So we bought a bunch of vegetables. It'd be a big basket of them. It looks really cool, and you can see the photos of those things on our website. And so then you've got these vegetables all laid out, and they come in. It's like, all right, celery. How do you cut celery efficiently, right? And so doing that. How about like garlic? How do you cut the garlic properly, right? So those essential things that everybody does in their own home kitchen, right? But knowing how to do it properly just increases the pleasure of like cooking, right? And so trying to, maybe incubate essentially the love for preparing food is one of the things that we like that these classes. So we had that one. We had a chicken butcher kind of class.
I think I saw pictures of that.
Yeah. That's amazing, right?
Yeah.
And I took that class. I
Nice.
wanted to learn how to do that.
Yeah.
And so literally you get a full chicken and how do you get the right cuts out of it? So if you want like more breast or like you want the leg and thigh, and there's even some special cuts that can give you better flavor depending on how you cut it. Because then if you cut it a certain way where the parts of the bones are still in there, then that bone actually provides more flavor when you barbecue it and everything, which is amazing,
Wow.
right? So
The
little
science
things like
and
that.
art of culinary.
Yeah, exactly.
magic.
So coming it together, right, and then to give you that that taste that you're looking for, right? So that class it wasn't as popular as like the knife skills class, but we did host it a few times. It is a little bit more expensive, but the thing is, you get 3 full chickens, all cut up by yourself.
Oh, you get to keep the chickens.
You get to keep the chickens. You take them home. I know.
You hear that? That's awesome.
It's fantastic,
That's brilliant.
right? Yeah, right. And the thing is, you get to practice not just on one chicken, but you get to practice on 3 of them, right?
Not just
and then
one,
you take
but 3. Yeah.
Exactly,
That's
and you
cool.
take it
That's
home.
cool. Yeah.
So it's pretty cool to participate in that class and to really show how that works. Another class that we did was the canning workshops, and so this was an interesting one where we actually brought in some consultants and essentially other chefs, chefs. Or
Yeah.
We brought in other chefs who had other great ideas about like how to can certain products.
You're talking about actually can as in preserve.
The preserves. That's right.
Interesting.
So we did it over the time of like June, July, August, and September, when there was a lot of like fresh produce being produced, right? And so we challenged our chef consultants and said, all right, name what the week that you want, figure out what's in season, and then figure out a plan on how to preserve those types of things. And they're like, oh, awesome. So yeah, and so that's what they would do. So if it was like strawberry jam, for example, like in June, they came in and they taught you how to make strawberry jam properly and all. So those were quite popular actually. There was a few of them, and there were some chefs that really enjoyed themselves and they had a lot of fun, and they enjoyed really working in our kitchen and learning about those. So quite a few people went through the program. I was impressed. Another program that we did was a soup making class, so learning how to make different types of soups. And so that also was a seasonal program. So depending on what season it was, what soups were important. So if it was we had one, for example, in the fall where we had the Three Sisters soup. And so it's like beans, corn, and zucchini, I think is the...
Okay,
or squash.
Yes.
Squash,
okay.
right? And so, so little things like that. So we would take that and be like, oh, prepare for the fall, and here's something that you can do. So that was really cool to get people involved in that. So so some of the education was really important for us, and it helped us a lot to getting our name out, especially early and when we started, and when it was also empty enough so that we could actually run it. Now it's a little bit tougher to run like night classes
because it's busy, right?
It's busy. That's right. Wow. It's busy, which is great.
That is great.
And that's not a big deal. But there's still some space that you can carve out in our schedule, and saying if you want to try to teach a class, and you can come in and get how you put it, promote yourself and say, look, I'm going to teach this type of class.
2 more questions to ask you. Where do we find out more about the Cauldron Kitchen?
Right. The best way to find out is through our website. So cauldronkitchen.ca is the best way. And so when you go into the website, the front of the page literally has all the information that you need. And if you want to go into more detail, then click on some of the links that are on there. So it's kind of one of those scrolling pages that the pictures change and then the text changes as it goes down. And so it's pretty nice. And then then email it. So one of the ways that we like to work with food businesses who are interested in using it is that they actually come in and take a tour. That's the most important, so that they can see the space, see what equipment and services we provide, and what's available, and then usually people's heads just pop and be like, wow, this is awesome. Like, I can't wait to start here. It's incredible. Every time I do a tour, that's a real crazy feeling. It's just like people literally bubble up with the potential.
Well, I haven't had a tour or anything, but
Right.
just listening to all this seriously, I'm very I'm very impressed by it because you guys have managed to tap into so many different from the educational side of the culinary arts to the educational from in terms of health and science and also looking at entrepreneurship, and community building
Yeah,
where you
like
have all
community
these
building.
different
Yeah,
businesses,
so exciting.
collaboration. It's
Yeah.
like all these different
Yeah.
check marks on this long list that the list of cool
Yeah, yeah.
and very innovative sort of model for a city
I
like
agree. Yeah. Even the fact that a lot of the businesses, like from just diverse ethnic foods, and
Sure.
that's probably one of the most exciting things is that you come in and be like, what's that smell, right? And
Yeah.
like, hey, that's interesting. And then we have a client who's like, oh, you got to try this. I'm sure you've never tried it before. I'm like, no, I haven't. Let me try, right? So
Yeah.
it's incredible the types of things that I've seen.
It is. It sounds. It sounds amazing. My last
And
question,
taste it, yeah.
I wanted to ask was, as an entrepreneur, what have you learned from this experience alone? Because
Yeah.
from talking to you, it sounds like you've worn so many hats.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's a collaboration between yourself and your partner,
Yeah.
but you've worn so many hats from the business case development to the 3D space
Design, yeah.
design. It's interesting because you've dove right in head first with no hesitation and learned so much. But and ultimately, you're an entrepreneur. This is a business.
Yeah.
And you can apply these skills to potentially other sorts of businesses, I would imagine.
I hope so, yeah.
And I'm sure you've got ideas for other businesses. But what is the one major lesson that you've learned about yourself in this journey here? Big question, I know.
Yeah, no, it's a good question. It's I think one of the big things is the word that came to my mind when you started asking the question is like this perseverance, right? Like you said, you're wearing all these hats and you put one on and you persevere at that job, then you take that one off and you put the next one on and be like, okay, what's this one? Right, I'm wearing this hat, so I got to persevere in this way, right? So it's always, I find that I've learned from myself that, you learn on the job, right? You have also support, right, with other people and other businesses that are around and be like asking questions, how about this, how about that? But you figure it out. You figure it out. It seems like as long as you're persevering and passionate about it, right, you can figure it out and how it would work. You learn how to manage cash flow. That's a big thing. It's like, okay, when does money need to come out? When does money need to come in? And so then pushing limits on that is like, okay, hey, by the way, can I pay in a couple days more when this is going to get paid? I'm going to get paid here and there. And so there's a lot of those like little I guess tidbits of things
Tricks
that
of the trade.
tricks, that you learn, right? But it all comes back to that perseverance because it's saying like, you know what? No, I've got to move ahead on this and I've got to make this happen, right? So how is it that I'm going to make it happen? So the persevering for in the problem solving, and I think that's it's definitely a strength of mine in trying to problem solve. And I know Dave Neal is also a great problem solver. He can sit down and like figure things out, look at the big picture, and then really focus and saying, okay, let's do it this way, right, and move on. So I think my answer would be that one is like learning how to persevere through things.
Well, thank you very much for this. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and I gotta tell you, it's a very cool project, and I'm sure I'd like to visit the venue. So
definitely.
So I'll have to come by sometime. But thank you for coming on.
I appreciate it. Thank you for inviting me.
Yes, definitely.
And so cauldronkitchen.ca, and give us a call or even send us an email, and it's it's a lot of fun. So and then like to make people's dreams come true, essentially.
I think you are, man. I think you are. I think that the tagline here speaks for itself. It's a proven fact. Make sure you check out Cauldron Kitchen. Thank you very much.
Thank you.